if, Matt, if you, yeah, you want to keep these on your table here and just hand out those and you can go through those and then go through these. Otherwise, both sides have both sets of proposals in hand and kind of lose the audience a little bit.
Okay. So I'm not tracking you, Brian. What do you want to do?
I would keep these in the box until you discuss those.
Okay.
This is our finished proposal. But, all right. Cool. Thank you. Okay, we'll do.
All right, everybody have the, I need to hold this up. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
Do you want to plug you guys some mic stands so you don't have to do that? I'll go get some mic stands. You can put them in. I know when you're going to start. So.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, Mike has seen the proposal, so we'll go ahead and get started. It is. I'm just going to start from the beginning, walk through it, not spend a ton of time, but just kind of hit the high points. It's first of all, it's a proposal for a 3-year contract, 21 to 24. Page 7. So I'll just refer to the page numbers, bottom right corner. There you see a 21-24 salary schedule. That's the current year salary schedule moving forward for the 3 years of the contract. So, of course, the steps and the educational attainment contained in that salary schedule moving forward for the 3 years of the contract. There is a proposal for a continuing in lieu of step movement at a rate of $500 for each of the 3 years. Some housekeeping really insofar as the Article 115 requirements reference to department changes. So I'm looking now at pages 9, 10, and 11. Again, I'm sure we'll have time to discuss this later, so I'm not going to spend time on each of the proposed changes, but just to highlight new paragraphs C and D on page 12. So Article 120, new C and D, designed to provide some flexibility to the school district in addressing particular needs, particularly as they relate to board goals. Flipping now to Article 150, starting on page 14. There are some changes. I'll let the group digest them with respect to added duty activities, but many of those are housekeeping. There are a couple more substantive changes looking at page 16. Proposal to strike paragraph K there. Similarly, Article 155, the salary for additional duty positions, not a lot of change there until you get to page 18. There is a proposal there to address the scope of the technology assignment at elementary with a range 3 and or range 4 addenda, depending on the size of the school. That's page 18. Let's go ahead and jump ahead to page 20. That's health. Of course, has been a continuing interest of the school district in its efforts to get some information related to the current health plan for AEA members through the Public Education Health Trust. Still hopeful that we'll receive some additional information. What we've done here for illustrative and informational purposes is include in the proposal employee contribution rate schedules for FY21 and FY22 intended as a comparison between the plan options offered under the ASD health plan as compared to those offered under the PEHT plan currently accessed by. Thanks, Mike. All right, just tell me if you're not picking this up on the audio. Continuing the discussion with regard to the health proposal at pages 20, 21, and 22, as I was saying, the bulk of the proposal there, as you'll see, is fundamentally a change from health insurance provided under the PEHT to the ASD health insurance plan. With some illustrative and informational slides there captured on the pages of the proposal around those employee contribution rates. You'll note on pages 21 and 22 that there are areas with question marks in the right-hand columns, which reflect that the AEA and the trust have not provided FY22 rates to us, and I understand those aren't set yet. So that's the reason, just by way of explanation, for the question marks that appear in those areas. Much of this language that's struck in the remainder of Article 205 relates to the fact that the proposal is for a switch from PEHT, and much of that language has to do with the administration and coordination between ASD and the trust with respect to payments and that sort of thing. So that's all struck. Next one I want to just spend a little time on page 26 at the bottom of the page, Article 310, carrying on to page 27. Did want to provide a little explanation there. This is essentially the attempt by the district to capture that this is in effect an FML leave provision, which is elsewhere reflected in the contract, and as you'll see is still in the proposal. So this is we believe an administrative leave management function that's unnecessary and is covered under FML entitlements. Page 28, Article 330, personal leave. There's a lot of bold and underlined there, but the overarching point is that personal leave will accrue, or excuse me, will be available as earned. And so there's some illustrations there for what that would look like with respect to a full-time, that is 1.0 FTE member, and how it would also be calculated for less than 1.0 FTE members. But that's the effort in that change. There's some changes beginning bottom of 29 to Article 335. You'll see that the effort there is to really clarify what the district believes is the intent of a district-managed professional leave bank, and there's some housekeeping with respect to how that management would occur, but then some significant restructuring, as you'll see, as to how those leave hours would be awarded and what those criteria are. Some changes proposed, Article 345, sick leave, pages 30 to 31. Many of those are housekeeping related to reference to a qualified medical provider, which is the appropriate appropriate reference under the FML and AFLA, which is the Alaska equivalent. So many of those are housekeeping adjustments. Some changes on pages 32 to 33, Article 360 at the bottom of 32. Again, some attempt to align the interest, the association interest in maintaining a long-term unpaid leave option outside of FML, AFLA with some of the operational interests and requirements for the district to ensure that while that benefit is available, it's manageable for the school district in terms of ensuring that there are employees available to teach in those positions. Those changes then carry over onto page 34, and you'll notice that one of the changes there, this really is a housekeeping change, number 4, towards the top of the page 34. This is language that's been in the contract, but doesn't reflect the current practice with respect to, or not practice, but the Alaska retirement system rules when it comes to Tier 3 defined contribution members. Those members are not eligible to purchase service credit for the leave that they've incurred during a leave without pay status. So that aligns with what's allowed under Alaska law, and that's the reason for that change there. Mostly housekeeping adjustments on the next page and a half or so. The next big change, well, they're kind of two right in a row. A smaller change in terms of the language struck in the proposal. The lesson plan language at the final section of Article 402, academic freedom, is struck in our proposal. The 403 is a big change on paper, but we believe in practice better aligns with what the state and federal requirements are related to students receiving special education services. So you'll note that the entire article, with the exception of the second, I guess, third paragraph on the top of page 38, is struck. That article there, we believe, captures all the state and federal requirements with respect to special education and the provision of those services under the IDEA that is required and that is appropriate with respect to the education of those students. Any restrictions or the like with respect to those requirements really is just inviting a claim of violation of those legal provisions is the district's position. So that carries over into the following page, 40, and again, just a reflection of simplifying that article to capture the legal requirements under IDEA. Article 408 on the bottom of 41 is struck. The belief there is that there are other provisions within the contract that we'll discuss later in subsequent negotiation sessions that capture the spirit there, and that really some of that language is duplicative. The next section I'd want to focus on is Article 411. That's on page 42. Again, same rationale with respect to what I described under Article 403. That Article 411 in the district's position is that is unnecessary language that is covered under state and primarily federal legal requirements, and should be the governing law with respect to that. There are some adjustments proposed to the assignment and transfer Article 413 on page 43. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on those because there are a number of changes that we'll want to get into as we go through the article. Some are housekeeping, some are a little more substantive. That article is a rather lengthy article and continues all the way to 47, you'll notice that the final lettered paragraph of Article 413 is struck. Teacher exchange intra-district. We can explain more what the rationale there is when we get to that article. There are some changes proposed for Article 419, discipline procedure for students. Again, I think I'll reserve comment for the discussion of that article. The attempt there is to align current practices with respect to discipline with the contract language, and there's some I guess thought or belief that this can achieve the same objective with a much simpler approach, and that's the reason for some of the language struck in that article. Again, I'll be happy to. I'm sure we'll spend time on that when we get to that article. Article 423, skipping over to page 51. This, I believe, was, well, I know had been a topic of some conversation earlier this year with the I guess, transition for much of the year to a distance delivery model. And we experienced to date one inclement weather day, which was a distance delivery day. So the language there would address the expectations on such day. Page 52, time at duty station, carrying over to the following page. You know, some adjustments to language there that probably better left for further review by your team, and we'll revisit when we begin work on that article. Should mention Article 432 struck, page 54, that similar to the intra-district, I want to make sure I get the name of that article right. The teacher exchange intra-district, 46, page 46, that, as I mentioned, that is struck. Kind of a similar thought here, not fully understanding the, I won't say relevance, because I don't want to, disparage the work on that article in the past, but not seeing in the current state the need for that article expressly in the contract with respect to those activities that may be categorized as innovative. Skipping ahead, some changes to Article 452. That's at page 60. Beginning toward the bottom of the page, Article 452. So some language changes proposed with respect to instructional planning time.
I'm sorry, Matt, did you cover 428 at all? Or did I miss it?
I believe I mentioned 428, time at duty station, and that there were some changes, but I didn't address specifically what those were. So we left off 452. The next one I would mention is Article 464, evaluation procedure, beginning at sort of near the bottom, page 62. I believe better aligns with the understanding of what practice ought to be with respect to members who may be moving into an improvement status. So that's the effort there, and we can talk more about that, of course, when we work on the article. Article 465 is struck. It's simply a cleanup as to again, language that while, and this is bottom 64, it essentially repeats the name of a federal statute and references it with respect to the district's compliance, which is, it's my position is self-evident, and so it's struck to simplify the contract. Classroom coverage, top of 65, Article 470, some language changes there. I'll probably leave that for further discussion later. Grievance procedure 66, right at the top. Some language changes here. The grievance procedure in terms of its step and how the proceedings move forward and so forth is largely undisturbed, but some reference to some cleanup and a couple more substantive changes in terms of the proposal that the grievance must be received by the district within 15 work days from the current 25, as an example. That article carries over onto 68, and again, some language more substantive than others, some cleanup with respect to referencing the appropriate department and that sort of thing. Article 601, recognition, is a change that I want to explain. That's at page 69. The effort here is to provide opportunities for nurses and other related services providers to remain, current employees to remain in the association by opting in. Others would move into the Anchorage Council of Education, known as ACE, and any employee hiring into those positions going forward as of July 1, 2021, would be an ACE employee with no Type C cert required, and that's 601. Contract maintenance 605, same page toward the bottom. That's a mandatory review clause. I've touched on a few things in here in terms of articles adjusted or struck that I believe may be susceptible in a good way to this proposed language. It could be an off negotiation cycle review of the contract to identify vestigial language and other language that for various reasons as listed there in the article have been in the contract but maybe oughtn't have been because the law has changed or some other intervening event, technology, et cetera. And this would be an idea about how to approach maintaining in the contract maintenance article the language of the contract to ensure those changes are addressed. Duration clause 615, page 70. Again, as was shown on the front page of the proposal for a 3-year contract. There is a change, minor change in the dues deduction article 720 to ensure that we align with Janus requirements. Doesn't look like much needs to change there, but we'll want to address that with that requirement in mind when we work that article. Association leave, the following article on page 73. There is a reduction in the association leave transfer, I guess, as is described there, moving to a flat number of days model, and then that those days would not carry forward as they do currently within the duration of the agreement. Instead, they would carry, they would not carry year to year, nor would they carry forward outside the term of the agreement. And that's the end of the district's proposal.
Okay, thank you, Matt. All right, well, yeah, thank you for your initial proposal. We appreciate that, and there'll be plenty of good discussions in the future regarding it, I'm sure. Right now, we'd like to start with Terry going through our cover letter that's on the front of this proposal, and then we'll go through it. Yes, you do.
All right. The Anchorage Education Association is proposing a one-year collective bargaining agreement to cover the 2021-2022 academic year. The last year has been stressful and uncertain for students, families, educators, and our communities. AEA's priorities for this bargaining are aimed at improving educator involvement and input in decision-making processes and continuing to improve student outcomes. Sorry. During the summer of 2020, ASD put in place key metrics and a thorough decision-making process for a return to face-to-face instruction. This plan was developed collaboratively based on science and focused on the health and well-being of students and staff. Without AEA member input, ASD changed their position and abandoned the plan, metrics, and decision-making process. This caused unnecessary stress and confusion for students, staff, and families, and eroded the trust among ASD, its employees, and the community. AEA members continue to work through these challenges and are committed to cooperation and collaboration moving forward. After numerous surveys and member input, the AEA bargaining team has crafted a proposal focusing in 4 key areas. 1, student and educator safety. 2, protection of educators' time, so educators may develop and deliver high-quality instruction, feedback, and collaborative approaches to fit every student's educational needs. 3, collaboration between educators and ASD leadership. 4, a competitive compensation package to attract and retain the best educators in the country. AEA looks forward to working closely with ASD to promote increased success for all students and the community. Sincerely, the AEA bargaining team.
All right, thank you, Terry. So, on a similar manner to the way Matt just went through the district's proposal, I'd like to just quickly go through ours. This is intended to be a summary of the bigger changes, maybe. It's in no way comprehensive. Maybe we got 75% of the significant changes that we'll go through here this evening, maybe a little bit more, but absolutely go through it on your own and sort it out. But on page 3, we have a blank table of contents. Just the nature of this document was in flux, and we would suggest that there be a table of contents in the CBA when it's done, but right now it seems like it would cause more harm than good. All right, so Article 105, it's a salary schedule, and AEA proposes, so it's a one-year deal, as we heard. So AEA proposes 3.5% on the salary schedule increase and 15-hour columns instead of the current 18-hour columns. And on page 12, if you would strike through the lane movement matrix, it doesn't apply anymore. It's just a formatting issue with our printout. But so strike through that lane movement matrix on page 12. Article 110, Part B. We propose a $1,700 in lieu of step. 110, Part G. 3% supplemental wage for doctorates and 2% supplemental wage for masters. Now, if we go back to 105, we said 3.5% on the salary schedule. That salary schedule also looks different. We've gone back to the salary schedule like we used to have, where it doesn't have a master's only section to it. In our proposal, the master's bonus salary supplement, and 110I Right now, we have I guess, sort of a practice in the district of a supplemental wage for hard-to-fill positions. We clarify that practice in 110I, and we also add special education teachers to that list. So that's a 6% supplemental wage for hard-to-fill positions. And 110J, it's an article that, or a section that speaks to, we've got some language changes for new programs, I guess what I'm trying to say. All right, 112, that's a new article. It addresses Tier 3 issues. We propose a district match 1%, cash in personal leave and sick leave options. So Article 112 is new language and intended to help out the Tier 3 folks. Article 115 deals with the 15-hour columns on the salary schedule and the credits allowed for changing lanes, for moving from one column to the next. 116 is a new article. We'll hear more about that. I think that's a Corey article, right? Nah, Corey. Okay, we'll talk more about 116 later. 125, salary payment. The change from, right now we have 10 or 12 payment options. We changed to 20 or 24 equal payments. Article 150, added duty activities. There's a 10% increase proposed by AEA to the level 2 through 7 addendums. And the level 1 addendums would go from, would be sort of standardized in terms of 25 hours of work for the level 1. So the standard would become, or standard is 25 hours for level 1, as we proposed. And there are additional elementary addenda included in Article 150 in our initial proposal. And 155, those are some relatively small changes, but we've redefined the ranges a little bit, and there's a little bit of new language. 156 is a new article. It addresses virtual school and virtual teaching issues. 205, health benefits. The district contribution of $1,895 per month per member electing coverage and free physicals would be the highlights there. So that's a $200 increase per month from what we currently have. Article 210, life insurance. Right now it's set at $100,000. We would propose that moves up to $300,000. We have some new language in 215 for workers' comp. 345 in sick leave. We have the ability for Tier 3 members to convert their sick leave to personal leave. That was in 345B. In 345C, Tier 3 can cash out sick leave at retirement or resignation.
Brian,
Yes.
could I ask that you give us page numbers? We're trying to flip through the articles, but page numbers would be easier to follow right here.
36 for that.
I got, yeah, I found it now, thank you.
And Article 402, which is on page 42. Academic freedom. There's some language changes there, and I guess the highlight would be that educators create their daily schedule. 403, which begins on page 43, and that's a 4 or 5 page article, 5-page article, 6-page article. Has extensive new language in it. So 403, which started on, what did I say, page 43, goes to page 48. Nope, sorry. Continues on to 49 and into 50. 403 has extensive new language and a table. Article 415, elementary student assessment and intervention, is a new article. 417. Which begins on page 58. Article 417, in-service planning defines when grades are due. So 417 used to be in-service planning and calendar. We propose that 417 be split into 417 and 418, where 417 deals with in-service planning and 418 deals with calendar. On page 59, discipline procedure for students. There's some new language there that AEA has proposed. On page 61, down at the bottom, 421, Article 421, hazardous and unsafe conditions. We have some new language there. .423 on page 63. This is emergency closures. We've added a new section to the article, and that's section D now, and just gives more detail to emergency closures. And 428, time and duty station, which is halfway down, starts halfway down page 64. We've cut this article down considerably, kind of trying to get back to the core concept of defining the duty day. And Article 429, which begins on page 65, is a new article. It's titled Elementary Master Schedule. So part of the language comes from the old Article 428, Section C, the elementary, which deals with the Elementary Scheduling Committee. There's some 428A language dealing with breakfast in the classroom, and there's new language regarding time for mandated trainings. Article 431, which is non-instructional duties, is on page 66. There's a fair bit of new language there, and again, that was well, it's related to the 428, 429. So it's, those three we'll probably talk about to some extent, kind of in the same circle there, I guess. Article 452 on page 73. Article 452, the big improvement to this article is that it quantifies the planning time by division, which is a bit of a shift from the way we've done in the past. Article 463 on page 74. And that's, you were given an insert. It was printed since our initial proposals were printed. That insert, so you can strike, if you wouldn't mind, disregard everything regarding 463 on page 74 and 75 in the packet that you got. This new language was just provided by the evaluation committee and then updated to kind of fit with what we're doing here. So the 463 that we're going to refer to. Oh, sorry, and 464. The 463 and 464 that we'll be referring to going forward will not be the 463, 464 that you see in the packet. It will be the 463, 464 in that stapled supplement you got. And 470. On page 78. Classroom coverage. So there's this is an article that we've been working on for a number of negotiations now, and there's a little bit of new language in Part A, and then we've struck Part B of 470. 506 negotiations. We've added a little bit of language regarding when initial proposals ought to be exchanged in the bargaining process. And in 601, there's a bit of new language about contracting out. And 615, duration. As we heard earlier, it's a one-year deal. And 740 on page 86. It's a collaboration article trying to just trying to clean up some language between and understanding between the district and the association. And I believe those are the articles that the association has opened up for bargaining this go around, and we look forward to some robust conversations on them. Unless you're ready to sign now. If you're ready to sign now, we can do that.
No, not quite. But
All right, well,
thanks for the presentation, Bill.
But it sounds like we're close, though. So
Well, before, I don't object to the idea of identifying a couple articles, each of us to maybe set aside to work on the next time we convene. But before we do that, I'd like to take a caucus so we can have some discussion among the SD team about how we might want to approach that.
sure, and perhaps right at the beginning of the caucus, maybe you and I could have a sidebar.
Sure.
Okay.
And I'm taking one extra copy. Dan wasn't able to join today.
How long?
30 minutes. So it's 5:18, so 5:50, we'll be back. Forty minutes.
Can you put a note on there that we'll be back around 5:50?
Yeah, I mean, we just have a stay tuned note on there.
It might be good to get into a habit of trying to put a time that we're scheduled to be back so people know. Otherwise, they won't know.
At 5:50 we'll be back.
That's our proposed. Yeah, that was what they proposed. Thank you.
I forgot it's just placeholder.
Thanks, Griffin. Thanks, Lee.
so appreciate the time to meet with the teams. I know the ask was for us to give some consideration as to an article or two we might want to bring forward next week. We're not ready to do that this evening, though. We're going to need a little more time to go through the initial proposal in some more detail and sort out how we want to approach next steps. So what I would commit, though, is to Heidi and Corey is just to early part of next week reach out and we can at that time indicate what article or articles we'd propose to bring to the discussion next we meet. I think we have both next Wednesday and Thursday set aside as tentative dates, as I recall. So we're happy to maintain both dates on the calendar, 4:30 to 7, to get this underway. I think that covers it. Other than to thank you for the proposal, and we'll, as I said, give it some consideration over the next few days and get back to you. Did you have anything else, Brian?
Sure. Yeah, and thanks for that. But yeah, next Wednesday we'll open 421 first, and if we're making good progress, then 418, and then 506, and we might also have a couple articles for you and I to sign. They're just they're booked from both parties.
Okay.
But yeah, so for your preparation there, plan on 421 will be our first article we open.
All right. That sounds good. Anything else we need to cover? I think I'll also follow up with location. Well, actually, we have alternating weeks, so I think this is our week. Did you intend to be back here, or?
Yeah, that's fine.
And we'll have to check. I don't recall whether the boardroom's available or not. There's some sort of curriculum sorting activity going on in there or something today. But in any event, that's a preferred location. If we can get that, we certainly will. And same. So should I go ahead and check then for Wednesday and Thursday?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And just so we're clear, I think we're clear, but at one point we had tomorrow scheduled as well.
We're going to need more time
Yeah,
to go
so-
through the.
Yeah, we don't want to meet tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Great.
Okay.
Matt, in terms of some logistics in our initial proposal, we need to tonight redo our 463 and 464, and we'll try to get that to you by the morning so
Okay.
that you can get those proposals up on the website.
That sounds good. And I don't know if it'd be possible at that point to, in understanding it might not line up perfectly, but also a table of contents, if it would work, only because there's new articles in there too. If not, we'll work with it. But yeah, I appreciate that, capturing that.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, ours was so okay. Thank you.
Very good.
All right.
Good. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you.